yes. It's Tuesday. This is the Men's Den, and this is the final episode of season one. We call it season finale. So, we have been through a lot of them. And for those who are new to this, we have actually already had 16 live episodes. This is episode 17. And what a way to come to a conclusion than having the very best on board. I will start with James, who has been here for quite some time, to actually introduce himself because he's been MIA for some time. James Mwathi.
Why are you maligning my name? That I've been MIA. I've not been MIA. But
go ahead. Go ahead. It's okay. Tell us where you've been. Go ahead, James.
No, I'm glad. I get surprised when you say we've done 16 episodes. Seems like we just started the other day. Definitely has been a pleasure interacting with the men out there. Learning a lot. We both learn. We are learning both ways. So we are not just imparting knowledge, but we're also gaining some knowledge. Yeah. It has been a good run. Let's see what season 2 holds. Yeah. So pleasure as always, and welcome everyone. It has been a good run. Eli.
Definitely, James, it's been a good run. And yes, it looks like it was just the other day we started off. But, once we started this thing, there's somebody else who decided he's going to always contradict us for whatsoever reasons. He made it his personal business to contradict us and be the ladies' favorite. Gilbert Kagwa. Good evening and good afternoon to you again.
Good evening to our viewers and good afternoon to those who are watching us from the USA. Eli, without maligning my name or without casting aspersion on my character, I would like to say it has been pleasure being here. We've interacted on several topics and several matters arising, and it has been great. And I appreciate that we've learned, we've shared, we've interacted, and it has been good. And I thank everyone who's joined us for this journey.
Definitely, Gilbert. I wasn't trying to malign you. I was just calling it as it is. And then there came another man who decided he is going to bring all this African culture into the Men's Den. And what a way to welcome me in the final episode of the show, Gilbert Kagwa. Good evening, sir, and how are you?
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. And I've been watching from the beginning. I missed some. As you know, we're always trying to be on live. Yes, quite very interesting. And there's quite a lot of information. You don't want to know how much inboxes I'm getting relating to this topic. So, but for me today, I think I've been trying so much to put things on track. Today, I just want us to understand the difference between Bimdogo and Mpango wa Kando. That's all I want us to make clear today to our listeners, because staki huko nje tuanze kunyimwa mavitu kwa sababu sijui tulisema hivi. Kama unatembelea tu mtu unajua anakuaga. So let's be clear about that, honestly. Then at least we can make some sense. Amani aje hapo.
Definitely. And of course, you can join us in the comment section. Remember, you can always use the hashtag Art in Heart responding to live, and the Facebook link that is the Art in Heart. On YouTube is the Art in Heart official. And let's get this rolling. So, gentlemen, Matasio has really nailed it as he wants to nail it. Who is Mpango wa Kando and who is Bimdogo? Because this was a big confusion last week and a lot of people had mixed reactions. Let me start with who? James.
You start, Eli. You start with me because I was not in last week's show. All right, basic understanding. Mpango wa Kando is the mistress. It's as basic as that. Bimdogo is the second or third or seventh or 15th wife. So in my understanding, the mistress is a relationship that is hidden. It's a relationship just between the man and the woman, where both parties know that they are not official. It's not something recognized. The woman knows her position, so most often she knows that this man is not available 100%. This man has commitments elsewhere, and her place is when time is found. What she benefits from this relationship, again, different people will have different benefits. There are those who will be paid for rent. There are those who will be taken on holiday. There are those. So it's it's an arrangement between the man and the woman, where the woman knows that she comes second. Bimdogo, or what I call second, third to infinity wife, is somebody who is recognized. Yeah. So while she knows that she's second or fifth, she lays stake and claim in that family. So she has her official roles. She's recognized by the other wives. She's recognized by the other families, and it is open. Yeah. So probably that would be my first thoughts between the two definitions.
Okay, recognition here is a factor, and then the roles actually come into play. And last week, when we were actually having this discussion, the main issue that equally came out was some of these people that claim to be Bibi Wadogo actually what we'll call mistress, as we term them. So, Matasio, how does one define their role in a relationship in this context?
You see, this whole topic, first of all, it is a very good pot for confusion. And today we're trying to really demarcate the confusion, and really just, for me, is to give us some basic references where we can shed our confusion. First of all, when we talk about defining Bimdogo and Pangwakando, last time I was on the show and I said there is nothing about building the kingdom with Bimdogo. You see, Mpango Wakando, we have to define it as just some of the side chicks any man for immoral reasons. Bimdogo is actually where the man has got definite responsibility towards. And how do you define a woman who you should be responsible to? You see, from a Pan-Africanist perspective, we have to look at three worlds as African people. The physical world we live in, the intellectual world, our culture, our history, where do we get our wisdom, and then the spiritual world, what do we believe in? So when you put these three things together, they give you one solution, what you should look for in a woman. Basically, there'll be a quality of spirituality in them. There'll be a quality of just intellectual. When we come to intellectual, I have to challenge you guys. If you ask a man 100 years ago, would you marry a woman who never went to school 100 years ago? And you also ask a man right now, 100 years later, would you marry a woman who never went to school? The answers are definitely to be different when you really focus on the intellectual world. So intellectual world actually tells us that you as a man, you need to communicate on a certain level of understanding that leads to consciousness. You understand? And the physical world is the performance. So the opening topic for me was, once in a while, I went to take my car from the garage, those who read. And this mechanic made a joke and asked me, what is it that a man looks for in a car as well as in a woman? So even before we are four men here, what word would you define that? What you as a man would you look for in a car as well as in a woman? That was my opening question before we even talk about Pan-Africanism, Bimdogo and all that, because we are the men. And these women don't just appear from nowhere. There is something we see in them. And we are the ones who put them in the box of Bimdogo, Bimkubwa, Mpango Wakando, Baby Mama, Sijui, all those names. Zinatokeanga tu tukiendelea hivi, but they don't exist in the Pan-Africanist context because they do not satisfy any of the physical, intellectual, or spiritual well-being of an African man. And that's the beginning point of all this.
That's quite heavy one. Gilbert is a lover of cars and vehicles for that matter. Gilbert, do you want to tell us what you look for in a car that is equally one of the main reasons you'd actually go looking for in a woman?
Mileage.
Oh, no. Are these used cars by any chance or fresh from the garage?
I I I think Matasha want to say something.
I was asking the mileage the car can go or the mileage the car has gone.
Yeah.
But Matasha, stop being political. I just said mileage. And let it stop at mileage because we cannot equate our beautiful women to cars as it is. They are special human beings to us, and whichever position they take in our life, they are who they are in our life. We are the one who categorize them. They never categorize themselves in our life. So we go for them, we categorize them. It's us, not them. And because this is a final wrap, we say it as it is. Eli, as I always say, CC, our own selfish interests make these things complicated. Matasi was asking, we put clarity between bibi mdogo na mpango wa kando. Sisi ndio tunaleta haya majina as it is because no one was born to call themselves bibi mdogo. You were first to them. You are second to the other person when you are with them. And as they say, wewe ni wao kama uko na wao. Ukishaenda huko kwingine, it doesn't matter. So when you are with them, wewe ni wa kwanza. When they are with someone else, maybe ule ndiye atakuita wewe wa pili. But no one, I told you last time, no one is born to share. Hii kitu tuliumbwa kila mtu akuwe tu na mmoja mmoja. Hii ya pili, end times. Kama you are a believer, hizo zimeongelewa end times. But as it is, kila mtu na mmoja mmoja. But when you decide as James said, kama umebarikiwa na you feel you are philanthropically enough to get the second one, let it be public. The secret lives that we subject women to are what brings all this discussion we are talking about. Yesterday I was reading about someone claiming 25 million in unborn child. So I'm like, how do you even know you'll give birth? Because it's unborn, hajatoka. So how will you even know? So we have a lot to discuss about this topic, and I'm waiting. James, now that he was not there, James, kindly today give us the way as we wrap up.
Good that you actually put it on James. James, just take it over and define to us how do you then move forward and actually take your position in that relationship, having been declared by the majority of the shareholders that you're second in position, or actually you come in and you want to stamp authority, I'm number one. How do we share the authorities there?
Where do I start? I start by saying that culture is dynamic. Okay. Just because we lived in the past not wearing clothes does not mean that we do not wear clothes today. Just because we practice certain, for example, with GM, just because we practiced and thought it twice then does not mean we do it today. Yeah. Why do I say that? It's because we've boxed women in this box where we feel they are like property and we are the ones who choose. Who said women don't choose? Yeah. You can want a woman and she does not fancy you and she tells you flat out no. So I don't know why we have this mentality in this age that we can have our pick. It is upon us men and that's why you find we are having in this dispensation, men who can't take rejection. Yeah, that's why you're finding men who, once rejected, will go out and commit horrendous crimes because of that rejection. It's because of this notion that as men, we have it our way always. You would be interested to know, Ellie, and everyone else that have come across women. This is something I'm still trying to study. Probably I'll engage the services of Gilbert to help me with that research. But I've come across several ladies who tell me, and I mean the modern woman. So I will not purport to speak about our grandmothers and past cultures, but the modern woman. I've met several who have told me within the first 15 seconds, they make a decision whether they will attach to you or not, even before you spot them. And then they will align themselves within your periphery, and they will attract. Women have a way of attracting. They will catch your attention, and you will think you're the one who has made all the effort, but you were spotted. But you'll go bragging to your boys how you've gotten a catch, and you're the man. But there's that thought that's coming that women, to a very large extent, choose their mates. Yeah, and this diverts from where we are coming from in our cultures, where it was for men, it was the men's realm to choose who they wanted as potential wives and all that. That is my number one. What do you call it? My number one point. Number two, when we talk about roles, again, then we are speaking strictly in a situation where the second or the subsequent, let me use the word subsequent, because there are men who have 4 wives. So we are not just speaking about the second, but any subsequent after the first. Any subsequent woman, for us to define her role within the family setup or the family unit as expected by society, then it has to be, number one, she has to be recognized. It can't be something that's hidden. Yeah. So this plays a part where we do away with the aspect of mpango wakando or mistress. So that is completely out of the picture. If we are to speak roles as per societal expectations, then this has to be somebody who is accepted by the society. Now, that being the case, then who defines the role? Definitely, the man plays a very big role, or a very big part in defining the role of the first wife and the role of the second wife. And the expected or the desired result would be the man apportions roles to the first wife and to the second wife or to the fourth that are agreeable to all the other women in his life. Again, this was more possible where we are coming from culturally, because it was acceptable that polygamy was acceptable. Yeah. So any woman getting married always knew there is a chance, probably above average, higher than average, that there will be a second wife and a third. So they expected that roles would change with time as the women around their husband increased. When I come to today's unions or marriages or partnerships, the lines become blurred because most people enter, now the first wives, I'm not talking about the subsequent, first wives, enter into unions believing that they will be the only. Most enter with the notion that it will be a monogamous kind of setup. But along the way, either by mutual consent or by the man stamping his foot down and saying, I need another person is introduced. And this is where now the conflict starts arising. especially if the first one has a problem accepting that there is somebody else in this union. It's no longer exclusively between two people, but we are now more than I. Yeah, and the same with the traditional setups. Even in this setup, the man plays a big role in trying to ensure that there is cohesion in the unit. Otherwise, and we've seen it over and over, he sets one in Nyeri and another one in Kilifi, so that this week he's in Kilifi, and then so they never mix because it's a potential minefield. Yeah.
Is this
But
why you went to the coast the other day?
who told you I was in the
That's a story for another day. Let's get to the comment section very fast, gentlemen, because I can see there's quite some engagement happening there. Let's see what people are saying. And definitely, good evening once again. Welcome to the Men's Den. This is our season finale for this season, and we hope, rather, our final episode, and this is the season finale. We hope we are going to have a positive impact even as we take a break. So this is Modi Tunza who says, hey, Don Carlos, VP, poa sana. Sarah and Jonjo, good evening, family. Yes, good evening to you. Leah Miringu, karibu sana. Hello to you. Noreen has said she has landed. I'm wondering where is the flight attendant. But then again, karibu sana. Nancy Magen, good evening. Wise mentors, she says, wow, okay. I'm feeling very educated now. Ken artists following. Who else feels like crying? I have no idea who is crying, but everybody that is here, I suppose you are having a great time. Godin Segero, mumeingia, karibu sana. Nobody's actually asking a question about this, but thanks so much for joining. We have Waso Derek who says, Niko hapa, and congratulations on your winning, sir. We appreciate you. Frida Ngoku, karibu sana. Hot topic, she says. Pato Ranking says 2 is better than 1 and vice versa. Allah. Watu wamesoma Biblia. Watu wamesoma Biblia, Gilbert. You're not the only one. Wycliffe Gaddafi says, welcome to Kwema Dume Mob. How are daughters of Jezebel do dominate me sometimes? Oh, welcome. He's welcoming the other men because they kuna kwanga na daughters of Jezebel kwa wingi sana. Eric Baron says following, and Wycliffe Gaddafi once again welcoming all the other gentlemen that are actually watching from the background and not saying a word. Karibu sana to the men's gen. So, gentlemen, we're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we take a few review on even what led us to these discussions in the first place. So let's take this needed break, okay?
With poor research questions, you'll end up with a hypothesis that will not give you valid results. So when starting this relationship, do we ask ourselves, what do we want in it?
What most people do, the most common is you will find a negative coping mechanism. Now, when we come specifically to men, the most negative coping mechanism that we get engaged in is substance use and later abuse.
Factors that promote further involvement include amount of time spent near the kid and the expression of caring and affection. Those are very important. It's not just the presence of a father, but the amount of time you have spent with that kid, expressing care and affection towards them, that matters.
Yes, let's bury James alive. Go ahead, James.
I see today you want me to be lynched.
Not only that, but because the whole purpose of this actually, and for those that might misunderstand the concept, it's to have these discussions from the man's perspective, especially now that there's so much talk that is happening about who a man is or who a man is not.
My wife, my family, there's no reason for you to have a second wife just because you want to sleep around. That could be the only women. You just want to sleep around. It is purely sexually driven. It is not that this woman has got a problem you are helping. No, it is just your selfish need for extra as a man. That is not a reason to have a second wife.
Where would the lady consent if she knows? Because I assume the lady would definitely know without even asking. So you're passing the blame to the man to ask, well, the woman already knows.
James, you said very clearly you are assuming.
James
Assumption,
and Gilbert, we
assumption
must
is
take a
not
break.
taken in law.
We will come back and continue on this discussion. Yes, so that has been the journey so far, and I believe for everybody that never attended one of these sittings, you missed quite a lot. James Mwathi, you've created a name for yourself, I can tell. Everybody wants to lynch you alive. Gilbert Makomero, on the other hand, has always been mtetezi wa haki za wanyonge, and Matasio came in with this all-African effect in the discussion when we talk about the men's den. Gentlemen, you can see our consistency has been very consistent. We're still talking about Baby Mdogo. We will review those later on, but for now, Matasio, James has laid his ground and he said where the woman comes in and they are given the role, the man actually plays a role. Are you of the same thought, Matasio?
Comes only when the two have been well defined. Before I go there, I'd like to react to some assumptions that may misguide us. An assumption that there is a modern woman, it's a very risky assumption. When you as a man talk to a lady in Nairobi and you think I'm talking to a modern lady because we are in Nairobi, and then you go to the village and you think I'm talking to not a modern lady because she's in the village, it may be misguiding. Whatever modern lady means. My opening advice last time was the reason our morality is also shifting and disappointing ourselves is because of being brainwashed and copying others and borrowing cultures that we are not based in them. So that's something you have to be careful. Just an observation. And then also to assume that polygamy is not accepted now that it was accepted. I think polygamy is being more accepted now, and it's even attracting polyandry. So serious is it? So that's an assumption. We cannot even think that polygamy is something from the past. Now, when I put that together, I go back to the Pan-Africanism perspective where I mentioned for it to work, for even anybody, be it a family member, a pastor, a friend, a wife, an intimate person to you, to even make your kingdom grow, these people must be capable to participate in your physical world. By that, I mean, if you're a business person, this person should be able to put something in your life of business. Intellectual level, like what you're doing now as men, we are sitting here. This is our intellectual wisdom, how we try to change the opinion. So if your woman does not add to this, my friend, he's not taking anywhere. Kama utatoka hapa mwanzo kupigana na bibi yako because of your ideas you are sharing, that's also not somebody worth being bibi mdogo or bibi mkubwa. It doesn't matter what position you put them in. And then the spiritual world. This comes from our own consciousness. What is it for a woman to bear your child? That's something very different than bibi mdogo, baba, whatever. Maybe you didn't even know. If somebody knocks you on your door now, oh yeah, I knew this girl when was in high school. Oh, yeah, you know, that time I got pregnant and blah, blah, life changed. That is a very, she's not asking you money. She's doing her life. That's a very serious spiritual connection you have with this woman and a very high level of consciousness. So does she get any responsibility? Does she play a role in your family? So those are the kind of roles we are playing. For example, yeah, you have Bibi Mdogo. What role does she play? So what I can only say is, until we as men ourselves define what we're looking in this woman, my answer was performance, just for information. Performance. In a car, I look for performance. A woman, you also look for performance. Now, and my friend was a bit offended because I'm comparing women to cars and technology and everything. It is not in that perspective. It is for you to be able to understand yourself, because when you get your salary, the first thing you're thinking, how much do I spend on my pleasures, clothes, cars, houses, businesses, and how much do I spend in my, and all these are in the physical world, but to be manifested in this physical world, you have to apply your spiritual connection. You have to apply your intellectual connection to make this physical world. And in this physical world, you have this Bibi Mdogo. You have this Baba Mdogo. So now, if this Bibi Mdogo is the one making you make money, then there is a problem, because Bibi Mkubwa is doing nothing. So your physical world is being dominated by Bibi Mdogo. Is she legally to be there? So responsibility economically will come to her, definitely. So for me, it is with the definition. If she's well defined in your life, to your children, what value does she add to your children? What value does she add to your own wife? What value does she add to your already family that you have recognized? But if you are just single, is another different story. So for me, that's my view, that's my opinion, and I think for us to help each other, and even our ladies outside there, because if you don't contribute in a man's physical world, intellectual world, and spiritual world, you'll just be ejected by even with the grandmother or the mother-in-law or even a sister. That's a fact.
You were talking about a sister, and it's interesting, and I hope, gentlemen, you've been really following what has been happening around with the case recently in the Nyanza province, where one of our very famous men went to rest in peace. However, there was a lot of fracas, and the story behind it seems that the sister of the man did not want to see eye to eye to this woman who happened to have gone ahead and sired children with the late. So sisters and their so-called blood, how you call them, sister-in-laws, what role do they play in actually making sure that this other wife is actually established in the family? And does the relationship between the two of them actually hinder the same? Gilbert?
Earlier, still repeat, two women cannot coexist in the same center power and control the same force. One will overpower the other one. It all circles down to protection and ownership. My sisters will want the best for me, as I will want the best for their lives. When you put them at a point where they have to choose, you are making them to become enemies in your life, because they'll either choose one of the women you're fighting for, or they will hate you for the decision you'll have made. That's why I say these decisions we make, it's a choice, a personal choice we make when we go out there and try to establish other centers of power, because you can only have one. When you are going to establish another one, there are competing forces, and these competing forces has actors, and your sister-in-laws or your mother-in-law, your brother-in-laws are actors in this play that you have drawn, written, and staged it. So it's you to control the role they play. They'll want to play their role because they feel they're entitled to ensuring that the best happens for you. But how you control everything is what matters. Because, like in this scenario, people are able to do what they were able to do because they had the power. The person who scripted the play was absent at that time. So they gained some temporary power within them to do what they thought was right. My question is, always, what happens to these innocent kids who never applied to be born in this relationship? What do they get out of it? What are they learning? What are you putting in them? When they grow up, what do you want them to reflect as human beings? Because only the most cruel thing in this life is being rejected with the people who are supposed to embrace you. Because you always ask yourself, where do I fall back to? If these are the people expected, if I'm falling out, the last people to hold me back are these type of people around me. So if they are rejecting you, how do you lead your life when you are growing up? And imagine a life of that kid who felt rejected when they were still young. When they grow up to be women and men in the society, what do you expect of them? So sometimes it depends. Like in my field, there are many things you'll put to it. It just depends at which stage and what role someone is playing. But it's unfortunate this has to happen. And as James said, men, we have a tendency of thinking we have the dominance of life, that we control everything, and women, we just have to follow and say nothing and do nothing. Just follow as you lead them. Yeah, we have been given, if you're a believer, you know very well, we've been given that power to be the head, but they were given power to be the neck. I always ask myself, can the head turn minus the neck? That is the symbiosis relationship that exists between a man and a woman. But mostly men will forget that there is a benefiting relationship that exists between the two, that we complement, we don't dominate. We forget most of the time and think we dominate. And that's where, as we said last week, hizi vitu za mpango wa kando and sijui nini and bibi mdogo, they come up because of our own women, our own selfish interests, because we fail to resolve that exists within us, and we think by going out we are creating a better solution that massages our ego.
Gilbert, I'll hold you on that because I can see James is listening, and Kagwa. Before your point goes, okay, go ahead. Then I can invite James. Kagwa, please.
No, no, I just wanted to react to a few things. I really agree and understand some of the thing when you mentioned, and I'll put in general as the man's ego. You understand the assumptions, the words control, selfish interests. And at some point, it is not that these women are just sitting there. They are not calculating anything. And then because of our own selfish interest, just warakabdabra, they find themselves as bibim dog. Is it so in your opinion? No. They also.
What is your point in this? Because I'm
no.
not trying.
So my point is this. I want to make it very clear that women are very smart in making choices, even whether they want to be Bimdogo, Mpango Wakando, baby daddy, all that. It never just happens. They play 70% of the story than us we play. Now, to leave that alone, that's what we say in our situation. Now, what we also have to understand, our cultures, our activities, the way we go in, our own lifestyle brings us into a position where we will have 1 or 2, 3 women involved in our lives. You may make somebody's daughter pregnant when you are still a student. There is no problem. You are still friends. But as you go, you just find your friends. You cannot end up marrying each other, but you're still friends. She plays a role in your life. She moves on, you move on. It can also be a marriage with divorce. There are people like in some communities when people talk about X, in other situations it is war. In other situations it is family members. That's very clear. It differs. So when we talk about bimdogo, I want us to make very clear that if as men you're talking about a woman who has a special role in your life, in that intimacy, kwanza mpango ya kando tutoe kando. That is not part of it. That's for sexual desires. It's done. Lakini an ex, ama mumeza, ama something, or and you see, also for us African people, even for the women to go out there, it's a social problem. I know people who have women in the village, they live in the city, they come back, bibi alizaa alipata mtoto akazaliwa, villages talk, things are talking, mangombe zinalipwa, vitu zinaendelea. Those things happen. So what we also have to look back, as I said, our three categories, our physical world, what cultures are we basing on? What values do we have? What, you know, even these things of coming together, some things come together because we are men and we are women and we relate. There are situations, even people end up marrying, ending up with family members before they know they are family related. They cannot get married, but they have children. These women play a role in their life. How do we deal with those things? So I would ask, we fall a little bit from our intellectual, we are men, we control, we parent, we do all those things. They fall back to some of our cultural heritage pointers and advices. And when can you have a second wife? Is it okay when you give somebody's daughter pregnancy? How are you responsible as a man when you are paying school fees for somebody's daughter, which you get? Does that mean that she's your baby dogo, or you're just doing a responsibility?
Thank you, Cargo, for that. And I will hold that thought, but I allow equally James to come in. And James, this is my question. And let me take it back to culture and heritage. I don't know how you do it back in central Kenya, but from where I come from, things are quite different. And once you have a relationship, depending on how this relationship was pronounced, even though you never got married, some of these people you had are considered your wives or wife for that matter. And upon death, like Matasio said earlier on in our previous show, if this woman was to actually come back and take care of the family, that is the child you had with them, especially a son, they are allowed with no questions into the family.
Yeah.
Even at death, they are actually allowed to be buried by you, and you never got married. So
yeah,
how does this play where you come from in terms of culture? And does it in any way emphasize the fact that a woman that has been in any way recognized due to culture and other practices actually is your bibi mdogo? James.
Thanks, Eli. Before I come to the question of the culture around the mountains, allow me to just clarify two things that I mentioned, and I think Matasi I feel he got it out of what I was trying to explain. When I mean the modern woman vis-a-vis the other woman, I don't know what name to give her. What I mean is not according to geographical location. What I mean is not according to Nairobi versus the rural. No. What I mean is the 1945 woman vis-a-vis the 2021 kind of woman. The thinking has changed. They have been exposed differently. Their ways of doing things are different. So that's why I come with the term modern woman. Yeah. I'll tell you, Matasi, for example, the modern woman nowadays is, we were used to the term chips funga. Now we have sausage funga. That is the modern woman. It never happened before, but now it is easy and acceptable amongst them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
it's been normalized. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I say that.
I agree.
Polygamy, when I talk about polygamy being more acceptable in that age, in that culture where we're coming from, I don't necessarily mean it is not acceptable today. What I mean is, then it was more expected than it is today. Today it is in the minority more than it was then. Have we been brainwashed? Maybe. Is it social economics that are forcing us into monogamy? Maybe. Is it religion? Maybe. There are very many aspects as to why today we are finding ourselves into monogamy more than polygamy. It does not mean polygamy does not exist, but it's not as the norm as it was then. Again, to just chip in before I come again to culture on the question that you had asked earlier about the in-laws, and I think I want to agree with Gilbert. Yeah, you see, as men, irrespective of the number of women in your life, there is an assumed but also expected plus assumed leadership role. Yeah, so it is upon the man to ensure that the mother does not become the wife or the sister does not become the wife. It is men who are, and I will use this term and I might get crucified, but it is men who are weak who allow their family to interfere with their wives. Yeah. You do not, if you do not give your mother permission to interfere with your marriage, she will not. And on one aspect, I'll agree with Gilbert when he says, our mothers, our sisters want the best for us. They don't do the interference because they do not want the marriage to work or anything. I was once told that there is no woman who thinks or believes they can treat you better than themselves. Your mother will never believe any other woman can treat you better than she can. And that's why she will keep on interfering. You know, you're not doing this, you're not. So it falls upon the man to stand and put their foot down and say, this is my space. This is the person I've chosen to live with. I appreciate your role, but kindly give us space. So that falls squarely on the man. Now, coming to culture and the question you asked about specific regions, I will say number one, like I started the show, culture is dynamic. Some of the things that we used to follow then, we do not follow now. But now, being more specific on what you ask concerning recognition of wives and children, I will tell you for free that in situations where you were once married, and married can be in the traditional setting, not necessarily church and all that. Married is just this woman who has become acceptable to the family unit and the society that she is your wife. So in such situations, and more so where dowry had been taken to the wife's place, when a separation happens, number one, it has the same way the union was recognized, the separation has to be recognized. And in some instances, part of the dowry is returned to signify that the marriage has ended. We might not return the whole whatever was taken, but as symbolism, something will be taken to signify the two are no longer together. But having said that, it does not divorce the children from continuing to be the man's children. So even though they went with the wife or the ex-wife, if they ever wish to return, depending on different dynamics, yeah, you might find they are returning and there are small pieces of land they can't feed, so there are some relatives who are fighting them and all that. But the common norm would be they are accepted back. Yeah, your children, even though they are from an ex-wife, they can be buried in your land. But now, where I find we differ from other cultures, a wife who it has been known that they have separated, and part of the dowry has been returned as symbolism that this union is over. If she was to die, she cannot be buried on your land. The kids can, but the woman, you severed the relationship. Yeah. So that those are the dynamics of the culture.
Yeah, gentlemen, we're really running out of time, and I would like for us to bring this matter to conclusion. But I'll give each one a round to go and try answer this for me tonight as we conclude. Who whose role then is it to ensure that there is peace within this brighter angle of Baby Mdogo and Baby Mkubwa and the entire family? Is it the woman that is coming in as a second wife, or is it the man to just be a bully, or does the lobby come into play, Gilbert?
Uh, Thank you, Eli. I'll repeat what I said. Two women cannot exist together unless that center of power is very weak. And I'll say again, based on the reasons one is existing in that relationship, it's upon the man. We have chosen to write this play and we want to stage it and act it. It's you. If you know very well you are going for the second, or mpango wa kando as we say, be able to manage the consequences. I don't know why we go for it and then when there is there is a storm in a cup, we want to sit back and watch. I think that is so wrong. That's so wrong and selfish because, as I said, mostly people go there because of their selfish interests. You think you have an issue here, you don't want to settle your scores here, you want to get another one so that you are able to show the other one, I can do it without you. And when they come on board, we are not able to control the two. Or we thought going for the second option will resolve this first problem that you had, only to realize everyone is claiming you and you cannot divide yourself. And now it becomes even hard for you to control the two because they are not fighting through you. They now engage direct. If you go to this one, we'll be talking to you about the other. And when you're with the other one, we'll be talking to you about the other person because all of them wants to have control over you. There is that ownership, there is that attachment someone gets, and once they get it, because women want affectionate and security, just assure them that the security is there. They attach. And when they attach, they become so jealous that they cannot allow anyone else to come interfere. You might have had an arrangement when you're coming in, but the more you increase security, the more they attach. And when they attach, they will not accept any other person to be in charge. But as we've said, this is a modern society where people are accepting any type of arrangement. And when we say modern, it's not the geographical space as we say, it's the mindset. Our mindset is accepting what earlier on was not even thought can happen. That two, you can go to someone and they are comfortable being secret lovers and they don't want to interfere with what is happening on the other side. And Kagwe said last time, those who are comfortable being in hiding, yet they want to participate in this kingdom, be sure there is nothing they are bringing on the table. They are gaining more than they are bringing. Because someone who is bringing something in the kingdom, they want identification. They want to be noticed because they value what they are doing in this kingdom. But those who are just enjoying the fruit of this kingdom, be sure they are the ones who are like, okay, I don't mind. I can be a secret lover or I can be a second wife without recognition. The problem comes in, as I said, these innocent kids who did not apply to be born in this family. They were never party to that agreement you guys made. And that's why when death appears, now we start fighting for recognition of those kids, not the person. Because they'll always say, I just want my kids to be recognized and participate. Ask yourself, what do you gain by participating in someone's burial? Nothing. It's
Thank
recognition
you,
and
thank you,
security they
Gilbert.
want.
Let me allow. I know we'll have to do a round, and it's really because we're out of time, and we still have to do a conclusion to this season. Matasio, and I can see you're having greetings there from Beatrice. I hope you received them. We are we are discussing on the role that these women come to play. So as we conclude, Matasio, very important that Gilbert has mentioned about the children and the day one goes to rest. Why does it become an issue to actually involve children in the affairs of the burial? Is it really necessary from the African perspective? And is it necessary as a mother or as a man to actually have your children that you side outside your wedlock to come in and be recognized? Matasi.
Are you asking me to answer that question, or this is my closing statement?
That could be your closing statement and equally a response to it.
Okay,
But
then
you
I'll
still have
combine
your
it.
points, I know.
Yes, then it is okay. I can say it is very important to involve the children in such a closure as the death of their father. Very important, very serious, very fundamental in the children's life. But the way and the means is done, right, wrong, from the beginning. If you follow the 3 steps, if this woman, which is also a friend, to be very honest, this is a personal person, I know, if the relationship was defined from the beginning, whether she's Bimdogo, Amampango, or Kando, her seat would be well defined. First appointment. Now, so when we have that well defined, then we know very well, like the children know their position, even the mother, because I know women are women. They can never define. It's the man who has to just make sure, okay, this has happened, or something happened, but 2 children, something cannot just happen 2 times like that. So there is another woman in my life and the children involved, and in your lifetime, they'll have to know their place, their space. The right thing was done, but in a very wrong way, exposing these children to a lot of public attention and all that. It's really wrong, but that's just the moral has decayed in our community. Now, I had prepared my closure if I can go on. Yes, my closure was actually just an advice and just a roadmap that we can help ourselves. First of all, as I said before, let us define. As a man, you will always run into women that will be the kingmakers or the sidewalk cheerers. That's definite. You get money, you get a good bar, a good car, maybe the waiter wouldn't mind even sleeping with you. That is obvious. And then when your weaknesses come, also there are women who will be your shoulder criers. So that's also something we have to understand. Not that only when you are rich or you're having everything is going good is when you have to watch women. No, you have a good marriage. Let things go bad. Let the best friends go out with you for a drink to let and advise you. If you trust some, things may change. So the first thing is define which women are coming in your life. Are these what being the kingmakers, whatever situation you are in? If not, it is a situationship. That situation, avoid it. Look for a relationship. And when looking for a relationship, please, my friend, it will apply in the 3 worlds: the physical world, intellectual world, and spiritual world. You may get, if people even end up having something very special with prior partners. That's a very strong spiritual world. So I think as men, we have to be very careful with these things. And if you really want to build your kingdom, choose. Do you want to entertain Bibi Mdogo, or do you want to entertain Pango Akandos? Are you having children out there with some other women? What role do they play in your life? That is it. Second, are you having a relationship or a situationship? Do you want to build? It doesn't matter how you want to build it. And then your physical. So for me, I think to close this chapter, it's very complicated. Man-woman relationship, it's very difficult to deal with. This is just one between man and woman. We are not talking about son and mother-in-law. We are not talking about brother and sister. We are not talking about, all those are so complicated. But this one, Choose wisely, look for relationships instead of situationships, and physical world, intellectual world, spiritual world, my brother. You can have your life balanced with a woman.
We're gonna have a life balance. James, as we close down, what do you tell women that have actually got into this situation, and men for that matter, because they are the ones that actually bring these women into that situation? How do we help them move ahead even when children are involved in the circle? James.
My mind was on one direction. You've completely thrown me to the other direction. I will take it because I am a man.
Start with your direction then. Start with your direction, then go to my direction.
That is what you want me to start because you said men will live by the scout motto, always be prepared. So I'll tackle it. To the women, again, know what you want. That's where it starts. Know what you want in a man. Go into any relationship. Having already looked at the consequences, possible and potential consequences, and having asked yourself, would you be comfortable if the worst possible consequence came to play? Yeah. So the case we are seeing recently, and I think Gilbert alluded to it. You're having this situationship with this prominent person, and like in one of our previous shows, we said when you go to the bathroom, you expect to take a shower. So by by default, I can't remember. There is a name that Gilbert advised us to use, but a baby is conceived during the process, and now you go ahead and start shouting and creating scenes and saying you want this much amount of money. When you're going out with this person, had you tried to figure out, had you talked to them about potential happenings, and were you comfortable? If a man tells you no, probably they mean no. So do not just take it lightly and say he will change along the way. It's one of the worst mistakes that women make. They usually say, I thought I could change him. I saw this, yes, but I thought along the way I could change him. Take those red flags seriously. Most probably they will not change. To the men, again, as we close this, the man is the head, like Gilbert started by saying. The man is the head, the woman is the neck. The woman will always support or should always support. So what that means is it is your role to lead. It is not the woman's role. It is your role to take leadership. So guide the relationship. Yeah. Take charge of the relationship. Be responsible, because again, this is something that we are currently seeing a lot of men are running away from. If you want to be identified as a man, be responsible. Take responsibility for your actions. And if you're the kind who takes responsibilities, then it would follow that before you make any choice, you'll have looked at possible consequences and asked yourself, how would I act when this happens? Again, like Gilbert reminds us every day, the most possible outcome of any relationship between a man and a woman is a child, and the child has not chosen to be in this situationship or relationship. So once a child comes into play, it no longer matters the relationship the two of you have. The child has to be protected. Whether you will continue living together or not, the child has to be protected. A lot of men are running away from that responsibility, and it is not fair on the young soul, not even the woman who you're having a problem with. It is the young person who you have equally contributed to bringing forth. So always understand that all the choices that you make have consequences, and ask yourself, how would I act in such if such situations arose? Number 3, and I'm addressing men, respect. Have respect all around. Just because we say you're in authority, you're in leadership, does not mean that you trample on everybody's head and it's your way or the highway. Respect people all around. It makes workings much easier. It makes life a little bit easier. It makes everything more compatible and easier. Yeah, you'll find your relationships are more fruitful, your work, your everything, your relationships, as long as there's respect, there will be good outcomes. And my final word to men out there, especially the young men who we are bringing up: find mentors. Find mentors who you would want to walk with you. Yeah, find people who have done it and have done it successfully, to hold your hand, and do not feel ashamed, or do not be afraid to ask for help, because at one time all of us will need help in one area or the other. So it doesn't make one a lesser man to ask for help. So have that one person who you can ask for help, who can mentor you, who can show you the ropes. And let's walk this journey. Being a man calls for leadership, so you need to man up and step up.
Wow, I will say if nobody had anything, then you had what you should have had. Matasio Kagwa, of course, thank you so much for bringing the Africanism in you into the show and making it having a different angle all the same. I hope for the next season when we get in, you'll be there to give us more and more of that. Gilbert, I know you've been silent and you had your word, but I can tell you want to say something. Do you?
I don't have much to say, but I'm just grateful we had this discussion, and as everyone on the show have said, that it starts with us and it ends with us. We are the men in the den. Let's take charge.
Let's take charge. Thank you so much, Gilbert. And yes, I know, Matasio, you always have something to say. But let's take another recap, and we will give ourselves a little bit 5 more minutes, and then we close down as we bring down the curtains.
Men do not necessarily attach emotions to sex. Okay, a man can have multiple sexual relationships without having the emotional connection to it, unlike women who are more emotional. Yeah, so that will make it easier for a man to have a different sex partner and feel nothing or no attachment to that partner, but still is connected to the wife or to the original partner.
Somebody will argue the reason why that even happens, it's because in the first place, the official woman in the relationship does not want the man to explore his talents.
Not unless you are ready to make someone a second wife or a second husband. That's why there are these terms and definitions, because it's a practice which is known. That's why they have defined the word. So if unless you want to have like 4 husbands and or 4 wives and 3 or 2 or multiple, or whichever you want, that you are cheating. You need to come out and declare clearly, if I want to marry the second wife, I'm marrying a second wife, not having people on the periphery and still enjoying the rights of saying you are I'm married to one wife. So if you have to join the league, join the league. You can't be on the 2.
With poor research questions, you'll end up with a hypothesis that will not give you valid results. So when starting this relationship, do we ask ourselves, what do we want in it?
What most people do, the most common is you will find a negative coping mechanism. Now, when we come specifically to men, the most negative coping mechanism that we get engaged in is substance use and later abuse.
Factors that promote further involvement include amount of time spent near the kid and the expression of caring and affection. Those are very important. It's not just the presence of a father, but the amount of time you have spent with that kid, expressing care and affection towards them. That matters.
Yes, let's bury James alive. Go ahead, James.
I see today you want me to be lynched.
Not only that, but because the whole purpose of this actually, and for those that might misunderstand the concept, it's to have these discussions from the man's perspective, especially now that there's so much talk that is happening about who a man is or who a man is not.
My wife, my family, there's no reason for you to have a second wife just because you want to sleep around. That could be the only women. You just want to sleep around. It is purely sexually driven. It is not that this woman has got a problem you are helping. No, it is just your selfish need for extra as a man. That is not a reason to have a second wife.
Where
So
would
I-
the lady consent if she knows? Because I assume the lady would definitely know without even asking. So you're passing the blame to the man to ask, well, the woman already knows. Why?
James, you said very clearly you are assuming.
James and
Assumption,
Gilbert, we
assumption
must
is
take a
not taken
break.
in law.
We will come back and continue on this discussion. Apologies. Indeed, we must take a break and we will continue with these discussions in the near future. As we conclude, gentlemen, how has been this journey since we started, and what do you want to do as a takeaway to the conversation, James?
I see we've had a fiery and fast and furious 16 episodes. Again, I can't wrap my mind to it that it has been 16 episodes.
And this is
Oh
the
boy.
17th one, actually.
17. My takeaway, again, I'll go back to my I think either the first or the second episode. I talked about the boy child being disadvantaged because we gave prominence to the girl child with all the movements to uplift the girl child, which was right in one sense. The girl child she had been marginalized from a while back, but along the way we forgot the boy and we left him somewhere in the forests, grappling alone and lost to the world. Take a tour today in Nairobi and in traffic, just watch the big cars and look at the ratio of who is driving what. I tell you, surprised. You will be surprised. You know me, I
I
tell
think
people
Gilbert has been sending money from US and Kagwa has been clearing them at the ports.
no, it might be, but who is running the economy? You see,
The
that's what
girls.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So my take home would be, as men, we need to step up. We need to catch up. We need to reclaim our space. We need to nurture the young man who is coming up today to understand that it's no longer granted that they will automatically, because this is the notion right now, that just because you are born male, automatically you take the lead. So with this misguided notion, what happens is we lag behind. As the women go to the library to study, we go out to party. And then after graduation, we wonder, why are we not getting these jobs? So we need to refocus as men. We need to refocus. We need to take the bull by the horns. We need to understand that we need to take up our roles. For the caregivers, especially the single parents, we are. You remember the Kababa generation?
Yes,
Magomere.
sure.
Yeah.
That should have been actually, that was in the first episode where we did Ego under Sieke.
Yeah. We are misrepresenting the boy child. We are misdirecting the boy child, of protecting and making them think that everything will be given on a silver platter. We are doing a disservice. So probably it's time that we reclaimed our space and we did what we ought to do as men, and understand that it is, you get anything that you want through sheer hard work, and there are no shortcuts in life. There are no shortcuts in life. If we understood this, we would not see men who depend on cougars, men who depend on their mothers, men who depend all those irrational things that we are doing nowadays. And I fear that if our grandfathers were to come out of their graves they would immediately ask to go back because we've become people who can't be recognized. So we need to step up.
Great. What do you tell the Kababa generation, Gilbert? These ones that James introduced us to as we finish the men's 10.
I think for every journey there is a genesis to it, and what you're experiencing now, Ellie, is something we've gotten for some time. When we started the Girl Power Women Empowerment, it was like a revolutionary thing, and we fought so hard, imagining that men had been empowered more than women. And instead of trying to see how we'll do it better, we fought to outdo what had been done. By saying men had been empowered, let us now empower women, and everyone like stop talking about now, what about the generation of men who are growing? And men sat comfortably without taking care of the generation that will follow them. So we have a product of men who went through the Kababa generation, and now we are getting the fruits. We have men who give zero chills to what family fabric is. We have we have men who don't know anything about the society they exist in. We exist as if we are in air. So the result is we'll have a worse generation growing up because they are being brought up with men who care less about what they do. They are not party to the consequences of their action. So eventually, if we sit down and watch and continue watching, we might have a worse generations than what we even have now. So the best we can do is to continue having this conversation so that maybe someone somewhere might hear and say, something is being said here. We must change our way of doing it, because it's not us, it's our way of doing it that is the problem. Because when we watch and we see it being done and we are doing nothing, we are cutting a time bomb. When it will go full throat, we won't be here talking about empowerment. We'll be here talking about now boy child empowerment, which I don't think it's something we want to go there.
Thank you, Gilbert. We don't want to go there. Tasio, we are closing the curtains on Men's Den. And I know you've been following behind scenes and seen what we've done and discussed so far. What is your final advice to single parents and men who have been called deadbeats and have stooped so low that they do not raise to standard as a man? Matasi.
I'll go back to my opening topic when I said of Bimdogama what the brainwashing. You see, it comes a long way, more than 400 years down the line, when the black man has been subjected to the most humiliating and degrading lifestyles from outside and from within Africa itself. I will only concentrate on the latest for the last 50 years when we talk about the latest brainwashing to really put down the black man, if you follow Black Man Awake programs. Feminism in the 90s was a very good way to put black man down, and to be honest, politically, Western involvement, Wangare Maathai was so much powered just to stand against Arap Moi. Clear politics. Penetrate in Kenya. To make it a very simple close, these are the brainwashing we get locked down in. This whole girl child is a clearance way for LGBT to take root in Kenya. Feminism gets to women empowerment, which is not going to empower families. You be supported with I don't know. So at the end of the day, when we look at it, the brainwashing, the things we get from the West get to us, we start to talk about them. When people talk about girl child in Africa, I was like, a child is raised with a family. Empower the family, you are empowering even the girl. You said, oh, we don't want to go there because that's how it has been planned. It's not going to be the boy child. It should be the LGBT discussion opened by Obama's visiting last time, a son of Luo, both in Africa. And the only comment comes to ask ask His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta is, let's talk about LGBT. At that moment,
Wait, are you saying there's something wrong to talk about this? I
no,
mean,
no, no,
I know
no,
we
no,
are
no, no,
really
no,
out
no,
of
no, no,
time.
no, 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 no. So what I'm going to say is the brainwashing, we have to choose what works for us. So girl child is brainwashing. So now when we talk, let's talk about our values. What are our African values? We get lost in politics, we get lost in celebrity, we get lost in all those things. So let us get back. That's why this message is very clear. We're not trying to be here to get likes, to be very popular, to be what. Let's talk about serious issues. When prominent people like us, our own friends, are going to be buried, and our own friends, girls, coming there to cause sin instead of mourning, then we know there's something wrong in the community. So let's focus, put away the brainwashing. I wanted to mention that that's how serious brainwashing is making us lose our Pan-African way of looking at the nuclear family concept. Starting to talk about Mpango Kando Bimdogo, we should be talking about first 5, second wife finished.
Wow, never thought that would head that way. But you know what? It is what it is in the men's den. And here we get to express our opinion as we wish them to be heard and, of course, portrayed out there. I've been very lucky to bring you these shows every single Tuesday since I think it's been a month or 3 months almost. I cannot even keep a count on it. But then again, sometimes we just need some time as men to go and relax. And so, as we take the summer holidays, I want to wish all of you a great one, hoping to see you in August as we start with a very tough one because apparently, Matasio, you're not supposed to allow your half or the other half to head to the gym. The gym has become the new breeding ground for you know what. See you next month. That is in August. See you as we start in the men's den, and probably we'll have more faces coming and contributing
Yes.
to the topics. But then again, I have been more than lucky and privileged to be the host. My name is Likuyani Eli. We have James Mwathi, who is based in Nairobi, and James is actually a psychologist in his own rights. Huyu ndio ule mtu mwenye ukienda kabla uchizi asha kusort. I'll be going to him for some tranquilizers. And Gilbert, the only man who has been very, very consistent in making sure that we do not forget how to balance things on this table. That is Gilbert Makomere, all the way in Oklahoma, USA. And the very new recent entrant in the men's den, Matasio Kagwa. Huyu naye mambo ukitaka kumwambia anything, mention Africa, he will deal with you as it comes. See you in August in the men's den. Until next time, have a great evening. And it is a wrap. Good night.